It's August. This garden season has just flown by. At least it feels like that to me. But if you're a pepper gardener, there's 5 things you need to do this month to make sure that your season closes out with a huge harvest and a happy, happy gardener. Actually, there might be 6 things. Stick around to the end. I'm going to share one extra tip with you that if you grow a lot of peppers, you're going to want to take advantage of because it could cost you significantly more money if you wait. So first things first, what do you need to be doing in August? Harvest. First thing you want to do right now, after this video, of course, after you like and subscribe and do all the good stuff, go out to your garden and do a harvest of everything that is ripe and anything that is already starting to ripen and maybe hasn't finished. Get them off your plants, get them inside. The ones that are starting to turn colors will finish if you leave them out of the refrigerator. Don't put them in the fridge, that'll stop the ripening process. But leave them on the counter for a couple of days, they'll finish ripening. That's exactly what I did with this pepper. It's all red now. The reason you want to do this is, 1, start enjoying your peppers, right? Everybody wants to eat. You've been working on these plants for months. Get yourself a good harvest. Enjoy it. The second reason is that it helps your plants put on another round of fruit. Remember that plants exist for one reason, and that is to reproduce. The pepper plant, once it has ripe fruit that are growing mature seeds, it's going to slow down and go, look, I'm covered for the next generation. If you harvest those peppers, it sends those signals back out, says, better make some more babies. That's what you want. The second thing you really want to make sure you're doing in August, you can do while you're harvesting, and that's stay on top of those weeds. If you've got weeds coming up in between your plants, this time of year, they're probably already starting to or right about to flower and spread their own seed, and then they're going to be an even bigger mess for you next season. So make sure that you are keeping on top of those weeds in August. It's easy to get tired of being out in the garden when it's 95, 100 degrees, it's sunny, you're hot, you're like, I just want to go inside and have an ice cold beverage. Take the few extra minutes, pull those weeds out of there. You will thank yourself so much next season when you notice a lot less weed pressure early on in the year. I've been doing this every year in my garden beds, and this year I saw the least amount of weeds that I've ever seen in the beds that were still established. I started a bunch of new beds this year too, so I'm going to make sure I'm really on top of those, that they don't build up a weed seed bank any more than what's already in everyone's soil. So that's 2. You've done your harvest, you've pulled your weeds. What else could you possibly need to do in August? Well, hopefully you've already got a lot of fruit starting to form on your pepper plants. But what happens in August when the plants really kick into high gear? They start putting out a lot of pods to ensure that they can regenerate in the next season. They get heavy, right? I've got a lot of plants here that I have to give extra support to because the branches themselves are getting so weighed down with peppers that either the plant will tip over if it's in a container, or those branches will start to bend until they break. I've actually lost a couple of branches off of plants this year because I was slow about getting extra supports put in place. You don't always need them. Pepper plants are strong, they're resilient, but take a look at the ones that you can tell they might not have as thick of a stem, they might need a little extra help, or they're just really loaded down. Give them some extra support. Ideally, you've already had them staked or in a cage. So what you really want to make sure you're doing at that point is just getting those bigger, heavier branches either tied back up to that central stake. You can use Velcro ties, you can use twine. Just don't go tight around any of the branches, right? You want to leave it loose. You're basically creating a loop just to hold it against the stake or hold it up so that it doesn't collapse or break. If you've got cages, you're probably already doing okay. Just make sure you're tucking those branches in as the plant grows so that they're not sneaking out of the cage and then just snapping off because they're too heavy. So give your plant some support. My favorite way is just to give a central stake and then tie it up to that. The end of the season, it can be a little bit of a challenge. I'm just out there with my snips cutting all this twine that I've used, but it's well worth it because my plants stay upright. It also helps with airflow. It reduces pest pressures if you're keeping those branches away from the soil so that there's not splashback when you do get that late summer rain. Give your plants support. You need support. I definitely need support. And my plants also need support. So we're working on it. It's a thing we're doing together. The 4th most important thing to be doing in August, if you are a pepper gardener though, is do a good feeding. Depending on what your feeding schedule has been, hopefully you have backed off on the nitrogen if you were doing a high nitrogen feed early in the season. I personally don't do that. I typically use a pretty low concentration fertilizer throughout the season. But if you were using something that had a really high nitrogen, this is definitely the time to stop. Ideally, you are at this point making sure the plant has enough potassium and phosphorus for the rest of the season. Phosphorus is a really big one for flowering and fruiting, so you want to make sure it's available. There's a lot of misunderstanding about what that means. Some people are like, yeah, I'm going to dump a huge high phosphorus fertilizer on my plants and they're going to put on so many more peppers than yours. That's not really how it works. Your plant is going to take up what it needs when it's available to take up, right? So most soils have plenty of phosphorus and plenty of potassium. Nitrogen is the thing that most soils are actually constantly deficient in. But what you have to think about is what type of fertilizer you're using. So if you are going to fertilize and feed your plants, again, this is the time to do it. If you're using an organic, slow release type fertilizer, go for it, right? That's going to take time to break down. It is not going to feed necessarily immediately, but it will feed over time as it breaks down and microbes do their work to feed the plant. If you're going to do what I do this time of year and grab a kind of synthetic fertilizer, typically I'll use something like a hydroponic fertilizer that is bloom focused. Again, using a higher phosphorus fertilizer doesn't cause more blooms unless your plant had a deficiency in phosphorus. But what you want to make sure of, especially with an artificial fertilizer, because it's available immediately to the plant when you water it in, you want to make sure that you are giving it enough so that if the plant is ready to uptake it and it's able to take up that phosphorus, it's available. Artificial fertilizers typically don't stay in the soil as long. They wash out because they're usually, water diluted to begin with. So you're basically pouring it in. The next time you water or it rains, it's going to be pushing that out. So it won't stay available to the plant as long as a organic fertilizer will, but it also works a heck of a lot faster. In my climate, I know I've only got about 2.5 months at best, probably closer to 2 months, 60 days before my season is in jeopardy of being over due to weather. So I just want to make sure that they've got a good lower nitrogen, higher phosphorus, higher potassium fertilizer available to them right now. Don't overdo it. All fertilizer use, follow the instructions. I mean that seriously, don't overdo it. Just dumping a bunch of fertilizer in can hurt your plant. It can hurt the environment if you put too much in and a whole bunch of it runs off and gets into the water system. Be responsible, be smart, follow the directions, and your plant will thank you. So what's the fifth thing that you should be doing in August? Planting seeds. You can start with plant starts in some cases too, if you can find them. But usually this time of year, it is very difficult to find any vegetable seedlings at your nurseries or your big box stores because those are for the beginning of the season. But pepper growers, we tend to do things with our crop like make salsa or make hot sauce or make chili powders. And being able to grow your own supporting ingredients for that is awesome. So things like cilantro, which doesn't do well in the heat, it will typically bolt. If you start that now, it'll have nice warm soil. It'll start to grow in August as the temps cool down through September and sometimes into October. You'll be able to harvest nice fresh cilantro to use with your peppers when you're making salsa or pico or tacos, whatever you're doing. Having fresh cilantro when you have peppers, that's a game changer. The other thing that I like to plant this time of year is dill. I pickle things, including jalapenos, but also including cucumbers because I grow those. But if you plant dill right now, it'll actually have plenty of time to grow. It grows fast. If you've never seen it before, it can grow and spread faster than you want it to. Plant it now. Again, the warm soils help make it germinate fast. It'll grow quickly. And then when you're ready to start pickling your harvest, you'll have dill to throw in there and make some delicious pickles. Other things that you can plant right now that are super helpful for pepper growers, carrots. Carrots do well in cooler temperatures, so they might take some time to get established. But once they start growing that taproot, that part that we eat, right, the big orange part, it's okay if they have a frost. It'll actually make them a little bit sweeter. The starches in the roots start to turn into sugar, so the flavor improves in those cool weather months. I like to have carrots as a sweetener for hot sauce. And so putting them in the ground now means that maybe November, when I'm making a batch of hot sauce from peppers that I had already put in the freezer, I can go ahead and grab some fresh carrots out of the garden and use those in my recipe. So think about things that you like to have with your peppers. And if there are short season versions of them, or if they just happen to grow fast like dill, it's time to get those in the ground and you'll have them when it's harvest time and when it's processing time and when it's eating time. I promised you a sixth bonus tip, and it's because of that last tip that I remembered I should share this. I'm out here getting ready to have all of the ingredients for making hot sauce and salsa. But there's something that I often forget about until it's too late, and that's buying my preservation supplies. So if you plan to save your crop in any way, shape, or form, whether you're dehydrating it, whether you're making hot sauce with it, whether you're canning it, you need to have some supplies. So this time of year, Prices on things like mason jars, things like hot sauce bottles and caps, they actually go up a lot, and scarcity starts to become a problem. There's been times when I couldn't find hot sauce bottles from any of my suppliers in late August, early September. Everybody was buying them because it was harvest time. So go out right now, figure out what you need and approximately how many. If you're making salsa, you need jars, right? If you're making hot sauce, you might need bottles. If you're drying your peppers out, you might need little spice shakers or jars to store the powder or the flakes in. Go get that now before it's too late. You can find it locally at restaurant supply stores. You can go online. You can get it from Amazon. You can get it from a lot of different places. Find what works best for you and get your order in or go pick it up so that you don't have to worry about it in a month when you're already tired from picking everything out of your garden, processing it, and you're like, oh no, I don't have enough jars. Don't find yourself in that situation. And like I said, the prices go up like crazy. If you look now and see what like a case of hot sauce bottles costs on Amazon and how many are available, then check again in a month. I think you'll be surprised and happy that you made the choice to buy them now rather than waiting. I'll leave links below to what I use. They are affiliate links. They don't cost you anything. They help me. And if this video helped you, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, or consider becoming a member of my channel. You get some extra perks like extra videos, access to my own seeds for free, and a whole lot of other cool community opportunities. So stay tuned. I've got a lot more coming this summer. The pepper reviews are in full swing. I'll be putting out at least one of those every week. Some other kinds of new content are coming in the form of shorts, because one thing's for sure, even when we're exhausted from gardening in August, plants help us grow.